Greetings, everyone. Well, today for our final horror-oriented Halloween Fest DVD review, I thought we'd take a look at some stuff that's suitable for the young ones, because I'm sure I'm not the only one here who has kids. So some of you parents out there might be wondering, hey, is there any sort of just scary enough stuff that's okay for the kiddies? Oh yeah, heck, there's tons! And that's what we're going to talk about today on the Multimedia Chronicles. Welcome back. Well, as a kid, I was always into monsters and scary stuff and so forth. I couldn't watch the really scary stuff that my parents were watching, of course, but, you know, there was my own kind of things that I enjoyed, you know. In particular, I was really into the classic monsters, so that's one of the reasons I really love the old Universal Monsters sets, because to me those were the original monsters, and just had this iconic quality about them that I think a lot of kids really identify with, because, you know, the old Universal Monster Collection of movies, you know, like Frankenstein and all those are monsters that kids can easily identify with. I mean, in many ways they're very sympathetic, you know, they tend to side with the monsters rather than the humans and stuff like that. So that's one thing I would actually recommend, but kind of on a case-by-case basis, because even though these are pretty tame by today's standards, some kids might find them a little bit too intense. Depends on the age, depends on, you know, the emotional stability, I guess. But for me as a kid, I loved the Universal Monsters, and these were like the ultimate monsters to me growing up. So that's one place you can start. Of course, depends on the kid again. I mean, if they don't mind black and white and they don't find even these too scary, then there you go. But I'll leave that up to your discretion as the parents. Now, sort of carrying on with the classic monsters theme, there's actually been a lot of cartoons over the years that feature them in one form or another. For example, one of my old favorites, the Drac Pack. Now, the Drac Pack features the descendants of Dracula, the Frankenstein monster, and the Wolfman, who basically decide to become this crime-fighting trio to try to redeem the negative images of their forefathers. And this is a lot of fun. This is totally suitable for kids, and actually a lot of fun for the parents too, I think, because there's a lot of tongue-in-cheek humor in there, and groaner puns and whatnot, and it's just a lot of fun. Now, in case you're wondering about the DVD release, this was only released in Canada on DVD, but Canada is Region 1, so if you're in the US, you should be able to get this as an import, and you will have no problem playing it on your DVD player. Now, this was 1980. Going back a few years to the early 70s, we also have Groovie Goolies, which again features sort of funny, wacky versions of the classic monster characters. This is done more in sort of a variety show style. There's a lot of inspiration taken from stuff like Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In and things like that. And as I mentioned when I got this, they do quite a lot of musical numbers in it as well. Rosie loves this show. Now, this is totally suitable for kids because it's very fast-paced, the skits are very short, and there's a lot of variety in it, and there's a lot of variety of monsters as well. You got the main monsters here as well. You got Dracula, the Frankenstein monster, and the Wolfman. But you also have other ones, like there's a mummy character, and there's a skeleton character, and even the haunted house itself that they live in is a character in and of itself. Whenever there's like a cheesy joke or something, the doors will open and close to the sound of maniacal laughter. So that's a lot of fun. So Groovie Goolies, and I think most kids would probably really enjoy the musical numbers too, because they're a lot of fun and stuff like that. Also taking a bit of a cue from the classic monsters, specifically Dracula, we have Count Duckula, which was actually produced by the same folks who brought us Danger Mouse back in the day. This one is definitely fun for both the kids and the adults because of the jokes in there. This is one of those types of cartoons where there's a lot of jokes that only the grown-ups will get. but at the same time there's a lot of slapstick and silly stuff that the kids will enjoy, so there's a little something for everybody in this one. This is the complete first season. There was actually 4 seasons of Count Duckula. They've all been released over in the UK, but unfortunately over here we've only got the first season. I keep holding out hope that somebody somewhere will release the remaining 3. But, yeah. So Count Duckula, that's a lot of fun. What else do we got here? Well, then of course you got the obligatory Halloween specials. One of my all-time favorites being the Garfield Halloween special. This is actually a holiday specials collection that they put out of Garfield's sort of holiday-oriented specials. You got Halloween, Thanksgiving, and Christmas on here. The Halloween and Christmas ones are 2 of my favorite Garfield specials of all time. So for me, this is probably my favorite out of all the volumes of Garfield that I have. But the Garfield Halloween special is a lot of fun. They meet up with some pirate ghosts and stuff like that. And as with most of the specials, there's a lot of really catchy songs in there. All the music well, the majority of the specials had music with vocals by Lou Rawls and Desiree Goyette, something like that. I don't know how to pronounce her name. It's very French. But anyway, very catchy, very fun songs, and just a great time. And again, with Garfield, as I don't really think I need to explain much about Garfield to you guys. With Garfield, it's the kind of humor that both adults and parents can enjoy. Now, sort of carrying on with the Classic Monsters theme, Classic Monsters have been adapted a number of times over the years in one form or another, or sort of paid homage to, which is one of the reasons why I like to recommend the originals, because kids who see these adaptations may, like me when I was a kid, be curious about the origins of the characters. So, you know, there you go. So I can't mention stuff that's just scary enough for kids and that kids love without talking about Scooby-Doo! Rosie loves Scooby-Doo, and I think that's one of the reasons she likes a lot of these other cartoons as well, because a lot of them have very similar styles of humor and, you know, similar kinds of monsters and such. So, again, I really don't need to say much about Scooby-Doo. You guys know all about it. You know, group of teens with their talking, well, sort of talking dog, who go out and solve mysteries. Usually, they think it's a monster or a ghost, and it almost, well, I think always is a guy in a costume pretending to be a monster or ghost. You'd think they'd catch on to that by now, but oh well. Some 40 years later, they're still doing Scooby-Doo. There's a couple of the more recent ones, Scooby-Doo and Where's My Mummy, and Scooby-Doo Legend of the Vampire. So there you go. Can't go wrong with Scooby-Doo. Definitely suitable for kids. Some of the adults will probably enjoy this just as a bit of a nostalgia trip, although some of the humor doesn't quite translate as well into your adult years, I find. But it's definitely fun for the kiddies. And I think, and actually Drac Pack, like Scooby-Doo, is also a Hanna-Barbera production. So if you enjoy sort of Hanna-Barbera's style of slapsticky humor and whatnot, you'll probably enjoy both of those. Now, in a similar vein, again, with sort of the same style of humor as Scooby-Doo and monsters that are more, I guess, goofy and wacky than actually scary, which is great, because kids, I think that's great for kids because they're showing that monsters aren't necessarily scary, they're just kind of silly, and if you see them for what they are, they're really not so scary after all. We have, going way back to 1975, the original Ghostbusters, which I've talked about a couple times before. Again, Rosie really enjoys this, and I think the reason she enjoys this is because it's a lot like Scooby-Doo, but sort of like a live-action Scooby-Doo. Instead of a dog, they've got a gorilla, but it's the same kind of humor. It's, you know, a couple of bumbling guys trying to solve this mystery about a ghost. In this case, they are actually ghosts. But again, the ghosts and monsters in it are more just sort of goofy and silly and wacky. And the humor in this is definitely geared towards the younger kids. Older viewers may enjoy it because it stars Larry Storch and Forrest Tucker of F Troop fame. I really like this just because I think it's a fun, silly show for kids. Rosie and I have actually been watching this quite a bit over the course of this month, and she requests it all the time. So, the original Ghostbusters, not to be confused with the 80s movie of similar name. And if you like that, well, you might want to check out the animated series that was a spin-off of the original Ghostbusters. This has a little bit of a different tone to it. This actually follows the sons of the original Ghostbusters. And then here's Volume 2. Volumes 1 and 2, there's 65 episodes total. The original Ghostbusters was very short. I think it's only 15 episodes. But whereas the original live-action Ghostbusters followed the adventures of the parents, or the dads, basically, and they would deal with different ghosts every time. The series takes on a little bit more of a typical 80s cartoon flavor, in that they're dealing with the same group of monsters all the time. They're led by this guy named Primeval. You can see on the back they're chasing them, and he sort of has his standard stable of minions, and they just kind of rotate through them over the course of the series. But if you like this, you'll probably like this, because the humor and everything is very similar, and this is the direct descendant of the old live-action show. I'm running out of room here. Okay, well, I can't talk about the 70s Ghostbusters without talking about the 80s Ghostbusters, and what better show for kids that's plenty scary and plenty funny, great for both kids and their parents, the Real Ghostbusters. This is, of course, the Firehouse set, which I did a big in-depth review about a while ago. This is great stuff, and this is one that, again, the parents, I think, will enjoy right along with their kids, because this was just a really well-written show, and for its day, the animation was pretty good, too, and some of the creature and ghost designs and everything are really creative and interesting. So we'll just put that up there. I'll tilt this back a little bit. There we go. Okay. And then finally, sort of taking a cue from old shows like The Twilight Zone and The Outer Limits, but made a little less intense and just scary enough for kids, we have Eerie Indiana. Eerie Indiana is a great show. The reason I equate it to The Twilight Zone and Outer Limits is because this is kind of like The Twilight Zone for kids. It takes place in a small town where there's strange goings-on, and this one kid seems to be, and his friend actually seem to be the only ones aware of the weirdness going on in this town. So they're trying to gather evidence and expose the town for the weird place that it is. And it's just great. Unfortunately, it only lasted barely a season. I think there's 19 episodes, half hour each. But this is very much a precursor to shows like Goosebumps and Are You Afraid of the Dark? This came first. Now, I know that Goosebumps is based on the books, but in terms of TV shows, Eerie Indiana was the first of those sort of just scary enough for kids kind of, spooky stories and stuff. And it's a lot of fun. And again, I think adults will enjoy that just as much as the kids, if not more so, because there's a lot of jokes, again, in there that only the grown-ups will get. So there you go. Quite a wide and varied selection. If you're looking for something just scary enough for kids that maybe you can enjoy along with them and recapture your inner child or be a kid at heart, all that fun stuff. I'm no stranger to that. I bought most of these for me originally. It's just sort of a natural byproduct of my life that I happen to have a child to share them with. So now I can just say I'm buying them for her when really I'm buying them for me. Anyway, hope that gives you some ideas. Some Halloween treats. Some of these are out of print, some of them aren't. Actually, Real Ghostbusters just came to be available in stores. Previously, it was only available as an online exclusive, so you should be able to find that one fairly easy soon. I don't know if it's actually out yet. I can't remember. I didn't look up the release date. Anyway, if it's not out now, it'll be out soon, and you should be able to find it relatively easy. Or there's individual volumes. A lot of these other ones are out of print, but you can usually find them on eBay or Amazon fairly cheap. I know the Ghostbusters ones, the old Ghostbusters ones, don't go for very much. Scooby-Doo is actually available in season sets, so you can get like the whole darn series in one. Actually, the original series is available in one set. There was only like 25 episodes or so of the original series, and you can get that all in one convenient, handy-dandy boxed set. This disc has the first 5 episodes of the original. We got it for like $5, so yeah. Anyway, I guess that's about it for now. Some fun Halloween treats. Enjoy with your kids. Until next time, thanks for watching, and sayonara. Oh, completely forgot to mention. It's the Great Pumpkin Charlie Brown. How can I not mention one of the most fondly remembered and loved Halloween specials in history? Well, the main reason I didn't mention is because I don't actually have it. I know, for shame. However, Warner Brothers has actually been re-releasing all the old Peanuts specials recently in nice deluxe remastered editions, and they did just put out a special edition of It's the Great Pumpkin Charlie Brown, so you should be able to find that one fairly easily. I should mention also, if you're into the Peanuts cartoons, this is a set I've been thinking of getting. They're putting out sets of all of the specials in the order that they were originally released. They've already put out one disc called the 1960s specials, which has all the specials that they did in the 60s, so all the original ones. And they just started putting out a 70s collection as well, which they're splitting up into several volumes because I guess they did a lot more in the 70s. So if you're a Peanuts fan, you might want to pick up the 60s and 70s collections, or if you just want the individual specials, most of those are available in individual editions as well. But especially, It's the Great Pumpkin Charlie Brown, because that's a great one. See you next time, folks.